So I'm here in Croghan and I'm in the home here of Molly Kavanagh, and we're joined here by Tom
Cullen
and
Betty Brown.
And you're all neighbours, lads, aren't you?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. Tell me this, I suppose one thing you want to ask yourself is, Croghan, when you think of Croghan, the first thing you think about, for me anyway, you think about the famous evictions.
Yeah.
And you would have a direct connection with that, don't you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
My uncle, whom I lived with for a good number of years, was 4-year-old in the evictions. And I often listened to his stories. He was in the home where all the evicted tenants. And he always said that he got stirred about with all the women because they were penalised somewhere. They were only to light the one fire, and all the women had to make their porridge on the one fire.
And he was that 4-year-old in the photograph. That was Michael Kavanagh, was that right?
Yeah.
And he was in the photograph beside his grandfather.
With the skirt on him, but the chap with the skirt on him had the dress.
And the little child girl beside him was Margaret Kavanagh.
Yeah, she was Margaret Carton of Kilthomas eventually. When she grew up and was married to Carton of Kilthomas.
And so Michael Kavanagh, that little 4-year-old, was
married to my aunt, my father's sister. My father's sister.
And you remember him telling you them stories?
Pardon?
He told you those stories directly, did he?
Yeah. Well, he was very secretive about what happened to a point.
And he would have, I suppose he would have, at 4 he would have remembered a small bit for sure, he would have.
He would have remembered a good bit.
And did you hear any stories at all, Tom, about it?
Well, more or less the same as what Molly, said to you there. A little bit what went on up in Cavanagh's yard when the evictions took place. Why the evictions took place, there was conflict between the landlord, who was George Brooke. He was in charge of 5,000 or 6,000 acres, and all the farmers in the locality were all tenant farmers, and they were paying this rent to the landlord anyhow. See, he upped this rent anyhow to a degree that some couldn't afford to pay it, and more weren't prepared to pay it. So it built up, and eventually they knew they were all going to be evicted. And what they done was they sold their stock and anything they had except what they had to keep to live on, and this, you've heard of Michael Davitt, who founded the Land League, and within the Land League they founded a fund called the Plan of Campaign, and the money they raised from all their stock and stuff that they sold, they put it into this fund so that they'd be able to support themselves when they were evicted. So the evictions all took place mainly around the month of July in 1887. And after the evictions happening up in that yard, it's only 400 yards from where we're sitting, there was 70 people living in the yard for a while. And I'll fast forward now to when I was a chap for a few minutes. I worked up there with Michael Kavanagh, and I had no idea whatsoever about the evictions. But the one thing I couldn't understand was why all the outhouses in Kavanagh's yard had windows in them that had been built up, and some of them had another chimney stack.
Yeah.
And then I eventually found out, and then I realised why. And to this day, I can still, there's none of the houses there now anymore except one. And I can still picture them all. There was the calf house, there was the barn, there was the stable, and then there was another calf house, and then there was 2 cow houses. You went over to the other side of the yard, there was a calf house and a pig house and the cart house and another pig house. And out in the backyard there was a hen house and another stable. And facing the road coming up into the yard, there was another house where housed the binder and the farm machinery.
And were they the houses that were built to house the families after the eviction? Temporary housing?
Pardon?
Were they the houses that were built, the temporary housing after the eviction they were built?
No, they were all there before the evictions.
They were all houses belonged to Kavanagh.
They were all belonged to Kavanagh. These were all the Kavanagh's
Outhouses.
Animal houses in the yard, and they converted them into dwellings for the people.
And put lofts on some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did the people stay in the houses for, in the yard?
I don't know how long they were in it, but I know my ancestors, my grandparents, would have been 21 years out of their homestead from the time they were evicted till they got back.
21 years.
21 years.
And who were those? They were the.
Pardon?
Those relations of yours, they were the Kavanaghs we're talking about, wasn't it?
No, the Grahams. Yeah.
They were one of the evicted families of the
They were all
Kavanaghs' houses.
evicted families, but they were probably lucky enough. Some of the ancestors were publicans in Dublin, and they had bought a farm over in Croghan Coolgreany area for sons, and they got the run of the place while they were while they were evicted.
And were they the same Grahams as yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm married
yeah,
into
yeah.
the same family. And there's an old house up in the homestead up there, and they said that the truth boiling water down on the people was trying to evict them. And they ended up in jail, I believe, in Wexford. The ancestors were there.
Trying to defend the...
Trying to defend the house, yeah.
There's medals. Alice Bush, her mother had a medal for, hadn't she?
Yeah, some of the relations had medals, but I
Yeah.
can't find. There was nothing
Yeah,
left
well,
up there.
my uncle had a medal order myself, but I don't know where it ever went.
What were the medals for?
Bravery,
For bravery,
trying to defend their
trying to defend their homesteads.
Yeah.
Some of them tried to defend it, and more of them just didn't bother. And some of them did the whole place barricaded up.
Some of
When
them,
they come and in the event of things like that happening, instead of trying to go through the front door, then they used to get ladders to go up and smash in the roof. You know, they were known. The fellas that was doing the evictions were known as the Crowbarby Brigade, and the landlord's agent was an Edward Hamilton. He was the gaffer. Yeah.
And where was Hamilton from?
I'm not exactly sure. I think he was from Cork, Molly, was he?
I haven't a clue now where Hamilton was from. The stone up the road there,
Well, gives you no information about where he was from, but he was an ass to be his goods anyhow, like, you know.
And these medals, who awarded those medals?
I'm sure it must have been somebody connected with Michael Davitt, was it?
I haven't a clue.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you saw one of those medals?
I never saw one of
I
them.
didn't either.
Yeah,
I
to be
never
honest with
did
you.
either. No, but Mick Bush has one anyway.
Yeah, sure, it was his mother, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
his mother, was
His
it? Or
grandmother,
His
his
grandmother.
grandmother,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right, yeah.
She was a Graham,
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
Alice Graham.
And sure, there was a Kingston man in the barracks. He got one. He was Paddy Dyle's grandfather.
Aye.
Maybe Morris Toole, has he? I don't know.
Don't know now.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose some didn't put any value on them, like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's only now they realised the significance of it, like.
And even the barricade, did you ever hear any stories from the likes of Mick or your own relations about the barricades? What did you use? Did you use scocks to block up the doors, or would it...
Yes, stocks and farm machinery and big trunks of trees. Everything, like, you know. Yeah.
And how long did it go on for? How long did the evictions take?
It more or less went on one summer. It wasn't Croghan alone now, it was Ballinabarney, Coolgreany, the whole, you know. There was 60 families evicted in all, approximately 300 people.
And all those 300 people, were they all housed give or take in Cavanagh.
There was huts and one thing or another put for him, like, you know. But I'll get back now up to here now for a while. When just after the eviction taking place, there was 70 people approximately up here in the yard, and there was a serious conflict one day anyhow, and they had seemingly made some sort of a deal with Kavanagh that they wouldn't evict him if he took in the other people.
Yeah, they paid money.
Yeah.
The money was paid to Kavanagh to keep them, to house them.
Yeah. So the landlord's agent, and I think there was 11 or 12 or maybe 15 armed men came one day to the yard anyhow, and they said that Kavanagh still owed money, do you see? And they had some sort of a document anyhow, and he said he wasn't going to hand over any money until he seen the document, and they wouldn't show him the document. So he said he wasn't going to pay any money then. Well, he said if you don't pay money, we will have to take 14 cows. So one word borrowed another anyhow, and one of them went about crossing the gate into the yard. The gate was shut, and all the people were in the yard and they were outside. And this man, John Kinsley, he went to stop your man from crossing the gate anyhow. So things intensified more anyhow, and eventually anyhow John Kinsley was shot dead in the yard. Yeah.
And John is buried up in Kilniner.
In Kilniner, that's right, yeah.
I can remember my uncle talking about him being brought in. Now, even he was only 4, he remember him being brought in on a door into the car house for probably whatever inquest, or it would be very basic in them things, like they did man on a door, a 4-year-old child seen it, like.
Yeah.
And where were those policemen? Where were they from? Were they from South Wexford? Were they from Wexford town?
I think they were from all over the place, really. Yeah. But then when the man was, there was a man by the name of what's his name, George Freeman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was charged with murdering John Kinsley, which he did do, and he went to the court in Wexford anyhow, and he was tried before a jury. And the jury, I think it was 23 men, 21 landlords and 2 landlords' agents was the jury. So you can understand what way the results of the court case went anyhow. Yeah.
So he was never prosecuted?
No.
And Kinsley, the cattle were taken that day too, weren't they?
They were taken, yeah. But Kavanagh, he brought him to court over legally taking the cattle, and he was reimbursed for his cattle anyhow, yeah. Which proved what they were doing was an illegal mission all the time, like, you know, yeah. You see, what he didn't know anything at all, like, you know. I don't know why, nobody will ever really know why they done it, like, but they done it anyhow. Yeah.
John Kinsley was dead?
John Kinsley was dead, and that was it, yeah.
Does John have any family around still?
He has, well, I think all that's left now is 2 great-granddaughters. Yeah, well, there's a couple of more great-grandchildren in England. Yeah. But then when he died and the court case now was over and things had sort of settled down a little bit, people started to drift away. You know, if you had a relative over in Anna or over in Chilahurd or somewhere, which was under different landlords, if they were able to take you, you went to live with him. And those families moved away altogether. Now John Kinsley's family, he had 2 sons and 2 daughters. When he was shot, he was a widow man himself, and that family moved down, and they're down to Clough somewhere. I'm not exactly sure, we're in Clough area anyhow. Yeah. And they married down there, and they had their families down there. And I know another family out of Croghan, and they went down. Paddy Dial's family, they went down outside of Arklow somewhere.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. You know, and people went to, and there was one family in Glenogue, and they were related to Fords up in Raheen Lee, where the wind farm is now. And Raheen Lee was right beside us. It was under a different landlords. They weren't involved, so people went to live with them. And that happened in several cases, you know, and there was other people then went away out of the country altogether, and some people went away and never came back, you know.
But that memory it's interesting how it survived, how that the memory of that whole eviction, even though it wasn't that long ago, still in some ways it was a long time ago, really, you know. Yeah. Like you grew up with that story of the.
When I grew up, I said I was reared on history.
Yeah.
Because my uncle, like, you used to talk to my late husband a lot about evictions now. Yeah. And he knew the history, kind of all the families, like, where they went and where they didn't go and all the different things. And yet I said there was a lot of things happening in it that never was recorded, like, you know.
And that gate that John Kinslow was shot at, is that the same gate that appears in the photographs?
Yeah, still there.
Yeah.
And those photographs of the Michael Kavanagh at the gate, are they John Kinslow's sons and daughters? In those
photographs? There's two of them there, yeah. Patrick and Miles and Bridget and I forget the fourth girl's name.
Well, I see, I before when I was relatively young, them photos only appeared late in life. I don't know where they were, but my father and my uncle was able to identify people in it, like, and identified a lot of people in it, like. But I was only a young one at the time, like, you know.
And were they recorded? Were they recorded for Peggy Doyle's book, or?
Not at all. No. So there wasn't the same communication amongst people as there is now. Like, there was no phones, no television, no, like, it was word of mouth everywhere, like, you know.
But you'd be able to pick out people in those photographs, wouldn't you? You'd know.
Well, we just know an odd one, like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I often heard them talking about the bullet went through Peter Maher's hat.
That's right, yeah.
So,
Peter Maher is in the photograph now, and I'm looking at him, but I don't know who's Peter Maher. And all the men were so much alike. They all wore hats and they all had beards.
And they were all women, and all were dressed.
More or less the same.
Almost the same style. Like, there was nothing about the latest fashion.
No.
And in some of the photographs, you can see that they were building these kind of, they look like wooden huts or wooden shacks of some sort. They were fine looking. Were they the temporary houses? Or
they were temporary houses. There was none of them up here. They were down around Coolgreany area where
and
you see
that.
And
but what you remember yourself, Tom, was that Kavanagh's you can actually, it was subdivided and broken up where people actually lived. You could see the.
There was fireplaces and chimneys in all their houses.
All the farmer houses were converted into living quarters. Yeah.
And did you have any of those stories yourself? Any of the stories about John Kinslow or any other personal ones yourself?
Not really, like whatever I've read in books, really, I wouldn't have.
Throwing boiling water was one, you said.
Yes, well, that's because I heard some Molly or someone saying it about, years ago about it. Now I wouldn't know much.
That was true enough,
I wouldn't know much about it, really.
They were prepared for that as well. They had galvanised umbrellas, the Crowbar Brigade. The women used to throw out the boiling water and boiling gruel, and some of it hit and all and missed. And if you put up resistance, you were physically removed and weren't too particular how way they handled you, like,
And where were these people, where did they live, these Crowbar Brigade? They must have spent the summer up here working, did they?
Oh, the landlord had a big estate there, a big house down there in Ballyfad. And they were there in huts. They come there living there in huts, yeah. I think the most of them come up from South Wexford somewhere. Yeah.
And there were regular RIC, were they?
Yeah.
Were the army as well, or were they?
No, don't do any army, no.
Just RIC.
But when the people was evicted, then you see the landlord brought in these planter tenants, And there was three planter tenants came to Croghan. A fella by the name of McIntosh from Aberdeenshire in Scotland. And he took over 3 or 4 or 5 small farms in what we call the upper town. There was a fella by the name of Dixon was put into the middle town. And over in Barrycroghan there was a fella by the name of Hegarty. They were the planter tenants. And some of them came, they had nothing. They had no stock, they had no money, they had no nothing. And the landlord subsidised them, and even they couldn't afford to look after themselves. And the people that could pay, he accepted the money from them that he refused from the local tenant farmers.
And how long did those people stay? Did those
There was kind of
Different lengths.
difference and kind of bowed out of it anyway. I think, like, you know, that
The relationship now wouldn't have been great, like, you know.
I often heard. Now, I suppose there's nothing in history. The Mike Kavanagh's father beat up Dixon. Well, he did. It wasn't he? We got a bit of help I had.
Yeah. I was the lad that gave him the help beat him up, I think. I was the lad that gave Mike Kavanagh the help was the lad that beat him
He
up.
beat him up anyway, but he done a year in jail for his.
Oh, he did, yeah.
who Mike did?
Man that owns the place up here.
And I think that's not in any history book. But it's because I often heard Leanne talking about the people that helped out in that case did the bit of work for him while your man was in jail. He was and he come out when he came out of jail. He had been tasting mattresses or something, and he come out with asthma after the year.
And that was Mike Kavanagh, was the tall Mike.
That's right, man.
Yeah,
Big man standing up. Yeah.
So if I'm correct, Mike spent a year in jail, did he?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah.
For beating up on Dixon.
And Dixon
And they
was
said he lost an eye in the whatever fray. They were coming from the pub and they beat up Dixon.
And are any Dixons around? Are they gone there?
I wouldn't say so. No.
Not them Dixons anyhow. No, I think that Dixon was from Kildare.
They weren't very popular around anyway.
No.
No, they wouldn't have been, sure. Wouldn't have been. And did Hegarty survive? Did Elaine survive Hegarty at all? Or?
No, there's different Hegartys here now, but they're not the same Hegartys. You know, you might know John Hegarty, the councillor. He's like, they came from Cork, they're not.
And likewise, the other family, the fellows from Scotland, they're gone.
They're gone as well, yeah. It was him and his son. I don't know whether he ever had any family, right?
Yeah. How long did they keep?
Well, I can't exactly tell you how long, but they probably would have all stayed kind of different lengths because they were intimidated in all directions, and you know, and they got fed up themselves and just
bailed out.
Some of them could have went after 4 or 5 years, more of them could have been there for 10 years. There's no accurate account of how long anybody stayed, like, you know.
Isn't it interesting when you think about it? If that was 200 years, if that was the 1600s, those evicted families would have probably just been pushed off to America or pushed off somewhere else,
That's
or
right,
pushed off west somewhere.
Yeah.
But did they get their houses back? Did they?
In Croghan, they did. Everybody in Croghan got their holdings back.
Yeah.
But there was places down around Ballyfad and Glenog and Ashkinch and Coolgreany. There was people never got it back. Never got the holdings back. Yeah, and actually when the evictions happened, there were some of them just went away and abandoned their holdings. Some went to America and they went all over the world and never came back.
Well, some were better to put up the fight to get back than others, I think. That's just it.
But Croghan was lucky in that regard. Eventually, although Molly says in her case, it took 21 years to get back, but they eventually got back, like, you know. Yeah.
Well, imagine what it's like to be turfed out of your home and be 21 year out.
But
well, the house, there was money come out of the, I think it must have been out of the planning campaign. My homestead, when I was a child, it was built for them when they came back. And of course, the original house after 21 years would be levelled.
Oh yeah, they did get some sort of a grant.
They got some sort of
yeah,
grant,
they did,
and the Ryans built the house anyway. But it was they said it was built with clay.
Yeah, but then when after when the evictions was over, like the Brooks estate fell apart. You know, and Brooks estate was no more after that.
So he was self-destruct button for him.
Yeah.
And he was up in Dublin, was he?
That's right. Yeah, he never lived down here. It was so obvious somebody belonging to him living here. But he was in Dublin or Kildare. It might have been Kildare, was it?
And who was he? Was he an Irishman or was he an Englishman?
No, I'm not sure.
It was a huge fine house though.
No, yes, it was. Yeah. But they said they said he was a sort of cottage when his people bought the place. That was valued far higher than what it should have been. And his fingers got burnt. And then he in turn tried to burn the fingers of the tenants to get his money back, like, you know. Yeah. But I just go back there now, Michael, now to talking about when all the people started to drift away. At one stage down in the school in Ballyfad, where there was always 40 to 50 pupils. At one stage then there was just 8 pupils in the school in Ballyfad because all the people as went away to other places. Yeah.
Sure, it would have suited them, when you think about it again, back to it would have suited them now for the people to throw them out of houses and disappear and you know, that would have suited them down to the ground if people wouldn't have stood up for themselves.
Oh yeah, of course it would, yeah.
And sure, historically, you always, like, those lands or those houses, this is the Gaelic territory in North Wexford, so those families had connections to that land hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So they weren't going to give up and walk away.
No, they had fought hard for it.
Which I mean, until Mr. Cromwell arrived, sure they owned it. He was the man that changed the whole thing, like, you know. Yeah. And it was him that planted these characters on these big estates, and it was handed down from one to the other, like, you know. Yeah.
And Brooke is gone now. No Brooke.
There's no Brooke now. And the fella now that did the evictions, I think he was the grandson of the Brooke that bought the estate. Okay? But the fella that did the evictions, anyway, he went away and he fought in the First World War and he died fighting in the First World War. Yeah. In France.
And those houses, are there any of those houses left standing, the houses of those families? Were they ever re-inhabited?
There's just 2 houses now today with people living in them that was there then. And that's where Molly lives. And up where Dan Keogh is, which was Mulligan's. They're the only two houses that was occupied then, they're still occupied. And there's just 2 names still in Croghan that was there then and had the him either side of me. Graham and Kavanagh. Yeah. All the other names was gone. And in the evictions there was 6 Kinsler families in Croghan. And today there's no Kinsler in Croghan.
No Kinsler in
No Kinsler, no Kinsler, yeah.
And you were saying that Croghan, the original name for Croghan was?
Its full title is Croghan Kinsler, yeah. Croghan Kinsler, yeah.
They were the Gaelic family that controlled the area.
Yeah.
And there's not one family in Kinsler life now.
Yeah.
I mean, not alone did they control this area. The Kinsler was the dominant name in Wexford one time. Yeah. And just over 2 miles past the gap where I met you this morning, there's a place down there called the Burra Bog, and that was the real stronghold of the Kinslers. And it was down there that they said the Kinslers crowned the first king of Ireland in the 3rd century. Yeah.
What's the name of the bog?
Logan is the name of the place, was a sandpit, and it was always called the Borough Bog. The Borough Bog, yeah.
The Borough Bog.
Borough Bog, yeah.
We've a Byery Bog up near us, up near Mallyedmond there.
Logan means little hollow.
Little hollow.
Yeah.
And the Kinsler, I've always struck me in North Wexford was Kinsler, people would say.
Oh yeah, that's the way we pronounced it, yeah. Oh yeah, everywhere else would be Kinsler, yeah. Oh, Kinsler, yeah.
Kinsler.
Yeah, Kinsler, yeah.
Yeah.
There was something else you were going to tell me, Tom. What was that?
In 1987, 100 years, we commemorated the 100 years anniversary of the evictions up in Kavanagh Yard. And we hadn't 70 people that day, but we had hundreds. And we were pleased and thrilled to have walking and talking in our midst Sean McBride, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. Yeah, he was up there with us. And he unveiled a plaque down in Ballyfad and another one in Coolgreany.
And there's a monument, there's a stone in a ditch, isn't there? Not far from here.
Just over the road, yeah.
What's that stone and who put it up?
It's a commemoration of the evictions. The wording on the stone is O'Neddy evicted the rebel. And just the date then. And Neddy, you see, Hamilton was the fella that did all the evictions. Edward Hamilton. So the people wanted to try and be as insulting as they possibly could be to him. And instead of calling him Edward, they called him Neddy, okay? And then they spelt Neddy wrong. And we don't know when it went up. And for a long time, we didn't know who put it up. But he accidentally was talking to an old man over in Coola Fancy. He's a great old historian as well. And he told me who put it up. And it was a man by the name of Kinsler also. And that Kinsler man that erected that stone, his son was married to a granddaughter of the man that was shot.
So to put it up as complete as a marker, but also as a complete insult to the.
No, that's all we know about it. Like, you know, I don't know who paid the bill or anything else.
And what does it say again?
O'Neddy evicted the rebel.
1887.
1887, yeah.
Any idea when it was put up?
I don't know, but sure, it's there probably around 1920, but then I don't know. I mean, it was there as long as anybody I knew was alive anyhow, like, you know. Yeah. You know.
And where did Hamilton go to?
I don't know that. I don't know where he went.
Where did he come from?
Something tells me he came from Cork, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
You see, there was a lot of history lost. Like, a lot of that history was lost. Like, people didn't seem to want to talk about it.
Well, did you ever hear any songs, or was there ever recitations written about it?
No.
Was there never a song written about Croghan?
No.
Or a little rhyme? Or a little, you know the way you get it 98 rhymes or a little...
No, there's nothing like that at all about it, no. There was an old, I have no word of it, but I know there was an old comical song made one time about a dancing Flemings that's in a van. The Tin of Band song. I don't know. I know the Evictions was mentioned in it, but just in one line of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What was it called again? What was it called, the song again?
The Tin of Band song.
Tin of Band song.
Yeah. It was just maybe it happened several times. There was a house dance over there, just over the road there, and I'm looking at it from here. Yeah. And there was a few funny boys anyhow made up this song about the sort of people that went to it.
And tell me this, that was 1887, and you're talking 21 years for families to come back. Was that resentment carried through, for example, come 1916, come the War of Independence? Were many of those families involved in that movement at all?
I No.
In
In the old IRA, for example, or 1916, did any of those families?
There wasn't, not so much. There was I know there was one man up there, one kinsman, anyhow, he was killed in the Battle of the Somme in the First World War. I can't recall anybody from around this area that was involved in the War of Independence or anything like that.
Their battles would have been local, I suppose. Their local battles. What were?
There was no local battles, was there, here then? Of course, another big thing here, of course, that time around was the Black and Tans. That were mostly around the same time, like, you know.
How were they treated locally?
Pardon?
How were they treated?
Not very well. Not very...
There was no one in love with them either.
Oh, there was not too many open the doors to them, anyhow.
So you probably had stories of them as well, did you? You probably
Well, I often heard them talking about Black and Tans. If you were the women, women would be out shopping with Aston Car or whatever at that time, and the Black and Tans take anything they had, come in the shop.
Yeah.
Women were afraid of their lives of them. Or that time, women would be going shopping in an Aston Car or a Pony car, mostly an Aston Car, and the Black and Tans would leap into the car and take anything they had got at the shop.
Did you ever raid any pubs around here for money or for drink?
Well, they might have had, but not that I know of, like, you know. What they could have had then, I just can't answer that question. Yeah.
You have one more thing you want to tell me about Kavanagh, Tom.
It's got nothing to do with the evictions or anything else. But that up there in Kavanagh, that Michael Kavanagh, he had two brothers priests. He had a nephew a priest, and he had a grandnephew a priest.
And there was several more in the books.
And several more
In the background.
in the wider circle family. But there was three of them came out of that yard, and the father of the fourth one came out of that yard. Yeah. One of them went as far away as in Australia and died in Australia. One of the Father Kavanaghs. Yeah.
And that's where the photographs ended up. They ended up in, off the top of my head, I've Adelaide at the back of my head. They ended up.
Yeah, there's photographs of the priests, and yeah, he's one of them. Yeah. Father John, was it?
Yeah, I have photos of the two of them there.
Yeah.
Molly, I'm looking here at two photographs, and they're two Kavanagh men, they're two priests.
Yeah.
And they were the descendants of the Kavanaghs of Croghan.
Yeah.
Now, how were they related to the Kavanaghs of Croghan? These men, were they the?
They were ancestors of the Kavanaghs of Croghan.
So Mike Kavanagh tall Mike Kavanagh in the photograph, they would be his
That's
nephews.
Brothers.
Brothers.
There's his brothers.
No, Coleman, they'd be brothers, I suppose. Yeah.
That man that was standing in the photograph in the door.
Yeah.
There's his two brothers. And one of these men went to Australia, wasn't that right?
Yeah.
And the man over here went on my right hand side, did he go to Ballygarrett, you were saying?
He retired at 60. And he retired at 60, and he didn't die till he was 85 when he died. And he was buried in Ballyfad in 1925.
And he was a priest he was a priest in Ballygarrett, was he?
Yeah, he was
Parish priest.
And when the nephew, the late father Richard Kavanagh was ordained, now that'd be Mike's brother.
Oh yeah.
He went to live with him.
Oh yeah.
And he died with him.
Oh.
But remember, Mike, Lord of mercy on him, saying he was up there in the house for years and years, and he used to serve mass every morning for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he had his own room up in the house.
Yeah, his own room up in the house.
Yeah.
And he died in 1925.
Yeah.
And he's buried in Ballyfad.
Yeah.
So he would have been in Ballygarrett probably end of the century or early part of the century.
He was never a practicing priest in it. He was only living with a nephew, a priest.
Oh, he wasn't a priest then?
No, he wasn't a priest down there. He was living with his nephew.
Okay.
He was a priest,
yeah.
Father Dick Kavanagh.
No.
And they always said that all of them were educated by son Kavanagh. He was a carpenter in Collatin.
Aye.
So now, there you have it.
Da